You're listening to Beyond Wellness Radio, bringing you the cutting edge in health, biohacking, and sports performance. Stay up to date and listen anywhere and anytime on your computer, tablet, or smartphone by subscribing on iTunes. Catch your host, Dr. Justin Marchegiani, as he answers your burning health questions as well as interviews from world-renowned guest experts. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.
Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani. Welcome to Beyond Wellness Radio. Feel free and head over to beyondwellnessradio.com where you can access our full podcast transcriptions. While you're there, you can also sign up for our thyroid and female hormone video series. This series goes into the root cause of why your hormones are out of balance. While you're there, you can also schedule a functional medicine consult with Dr. Justin, myself, where we'll dig deeper into the root cause of your health challenges. Feel free and think of sharing this podcast with at least one person. This podcast grows by people sharing it. Sharing is caring. If you can think of one person that can benefit from this information, please feel free and share it. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. You can also click below the video or podcast where you'll see the iTunes review button and leave us a review. You can also sign up for the newsletter at beyondwellnessradio.com where you'll get updates before anyone else. Thank you so much and enjoy the show.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Dr. J here. Evan, what's going on, man?
What is up? I just had some elk for lunch before we jumped on this call, so I'm feeling elkified.
Elkified. There we go. Making up words again. I like it. That's how we get your creativity going. I'm actually sipping on a nice little LaCroix here. I love these LaCroix. These are great. Over 10 years ago, I used to be a little Diet Coke soda addict because, we want to keep the sugar down. So taking a whole bunch of aspartame or Splenda, right? A lot of these artificial sweeteners, thought I was doing myself a whole world of good, but definitely wasn't. Love these LaCroix. I got the natural mango going. It's quite thirst quenching.
How do you feel about sparkling waters? Do you think there's a teeth enamel issue that occurs with excessive consumption of those?
I don't know. I mean, again, a lot of water, a lot of sparkling water, there's added CO2 in it, or it depends if it's mineral water like Pellegrino or like a Topo Chico where it's infused minerals in there as well. So I'm not really too worried about that. I take a lot of, when I get up in the morning, I have a really good filtered water with a whole bunch of sea salt covering the bottom level of my mug, and I down 2 or 3 really big glasses.
So that'll get plenty of good stuff in regardless of what you drink afterwards, you're saying?
Yeah, a lot of good minerals in there. I mean, my concern is, like I had someone on my show, we were talking about filtered water recently, and the person was just really concerned about, the demineralization and all these different things. And, I kind of have a different perspective. Yeah, that's a concern, but I think the bigger issue is people consuming water that's not clean, that still has chlorine and fluoride and probably some pharmaceutical drugs and other potential pathogens in there. That's far worse. Now, of course, if you get your water filtered and cleaned up, or whether it's reverse osmosis or a carbon-based filter or like a Berkey or one of those guys, yeah, I mean, just pinch a little bit of sea salt in there, high-quality sea salt. That will really help add the mineralization it needs.
Yep.
So today we talked pre-show that we wanted to chat a little bit about sleep and kind of connect the dots with the hormones, right?
Yes, sleep is essential, but for some reason it's still not prioritized among health enthusiasts and health seekers. It's thought of as a luxury, or people are called lazy if they take a nap or if they sleep more than 8 hours. And hopefully we can shed some light on why that's not the case today.
Yeah. I just saw it wasn't a study, but it was basically a survey of people that use these technologies that go around your wrist, like the Jawbone or the Misfit, these different things that track sleep and such. Well, they had people sleep a certain amount of time, and they had them rate by, how they felt the next day and such. And they found on the Jawbone, that's one of these different devices here, that 8 to 9.5 hours allowed people to feel the best during the next day. That's pretty interesting. So 8 to 9.5 hours is a really good place, I believe. And it's not only just the time, it's also when you fall asleep, because that allows you to tap into some of these different hormones that we'll talk about in a bit.
Yeah, I don't have any particular study or any documentation, but I always tell people that the hours before midnight almost count as double. If you're going to bed midnight, 1 a.m., you've already basically passed the hormonal regulation optimal starting point, if you will. And now you're going to have limited results and limited recovery, which is why if I go to bed at midnight for some reason, which is rare these days, I don't feel the same in the morning as I do when I go to bed at, say, 9:30.
Yeah, that makes sense. And there's a handful of studies out there. We're not going to cite them all. You can just go into the Google machine and just punch in sleep and hormones or sleep and blood sugar, or college students study sleep and blood sugar. They did a study a couple of years back looking at college students, and they cut down their sleep, I think, to 4 hours or so. And they saw significant perturbations, fluctuations in blood sugar to the point where they were nearly pre-diabetic. So we know sleep and blood sugar plays a huge role. And also, anytime we're messing with blood sugar, we're more than likely messing with cortisol. So cortisol is going to be out of balance as well. And we know cortisol should have this nice rhythm of high in the morning and lower at night. And the more stress we get with sleep, right, we're going to start lowering cortisol in the morning and raising it at night, relatively speaking, to where it should be within that range.
Yeah, and cortisol and melatonin are going to get thrown off out of their balance. So now you're going to have low melatonin. Your hunger hormones are going to get thrown off. So you're going to have tons more ghrelin than you normally would. So you're going to have an insatiable appetite. So that could contribute to binge eating of gluten-free cookies and brownies when you wake up because you're exhausted.
Yep, absolutely. Again, I look at sleep. If you can address and control sleep, you're really addressing and controlling blood sugar. And if you're supporting blood sugar, you're also going to be supporting your hormones. That's a big one, because when we throw cortisol off, especially if you're a female listening, cortisol can be taken from progesterone. So if we're robbing from our progesterone, well, guess what we're doing? We're setting ourselves up for a really wonky luteal phase. A luteal phase is that second half of our female cycle, and it's primarily predominated by progesterone. And if progesterone drops out a little too soon in that cycle, we can really start suffering from PMS symptoms. This is like breast tenderness, back pain, moodiness, irritability, excessive bleeding, menstrual cramps, etc. And this can happen before bleeding, before menstruation, and during menstruation. So a lot of these are really not so good, and it throws us into a state known as estrogen dominance. And this can allow things like fibroids to grow and endometriosis, and even cause excessive bleeding that can even cause things like anemia, which cause more fatigue and cause more thyroid and adrenal issues, because now your body's ability to carry oxygen, because you're low in iron, is now impeded. So now you're set up for a world of hurt when it comes to energy and mood and how you feel.
So what if you're sleeping good, but you're still having all of those symptoms? Is there something else going on that's causing that progesterone to be too low?
Yeah, we always kind of look at stress, and we kind of have this metaphorical stress bucket. So everyone just kind of close their eyes unless you're driving. So you got this bucket here, right? And we got the three major stressors that contribute to that bucket, and that's going to be your physical stress. So kind of take an audit here. If you get any back pain or neck pain or chronic headaches, or you sit all day, or you do too much CrossFit that's causing you to be worn out, maybe some old injuries, throw a couple of balls into that bucket. Look at the emotional stressors. How's your marriage, kids, family, job, all those things. If you got some emotional stress, put a couple balls in that bucket. And then look at the chemical stressors. And these stressors are the ones that fly under the radar. People have no idea they're even an issue, because you got to actually talk to a functional medicine doctor or specialist, or get some lab testing done to even know about it. And that could be like low stomach acid. So just take a look at your fingernails, not if you're driving. Do you have any vertical ridging or white spots? Do you have any fungal toes, right? Do you have any white tongue stuff? Do you get dizzy standing up fast? I mean, these are just all signs of protein issues and adrenal issues. Is your temperature low, right? You don't even need a lab test to get these things done, but a good functional medicine doctor will extract this info, and it's very telling about the underlying hormonal system, gut, infections, etc. So Go ahead, yeah. I'll breathe for a second.
Breathe. So that's what I was getting at, is that it's not just one thing that's going to go wrong, like we're talking about sleep today, but there's many people that may feel like they're sleeping good, but they still have all of those symptoms. So at that point, they need to zoom out a little bit and look at all of these other things, make sure everything's in place. And at a certain point, if your adrenals are taxed, regardless of the nutritional aspect, if you don't have some type of support system in place, it sounds like you're never going to get better with that progesterone deficiency, if you will.
That progesterone steal or cortisol escape or pregnenolone steal. There's a whole bunch of names to describe it. But yeah, everyone listening that has a sleep issue, the first thing they should do before even seeing or contacting someone like us is just try to get the diet dialed in, right? Just try to get the blood sugar going, eating with the first 30 to 45 minutes of getting up. Again, throw out the window the rule of, hey, you shouldn't eat, before bed. A lot of people will do better eating before bed, especially some protein, fat, and maybe a little bit of carbs, because their adrenals may be so messed up, their cortisol may be dropping, their blood sugar may be dropping, and it may be causing their adrenals to produce more adrenaline and more cortisol to bring that blood sugar back up, which could wake them up in the middle of the night. So if you're having a hard time going to bed, it's probably high cortisol. If you're having a hard time if you're waking up in the middle of the night, we always look to lower cortisol and low blood sugar, causing a stress response in the middle of the night.
I had this snack the other day. I never eat any sort of processed food like this, but this brand Pamela's, they had a gluten-free cinnamon graham cracker, and I saw it and I was like, oh my God, I've dreamed of having some cinnamon graham crackers since I was a kid that are actually not going to hurt my stomach. And so I bought a pack of those and I just loaded it heavy with some almond butter, and I had that before bed. And it could have been the nostalgia kicking in, but I don't know what it was. Could have just been the good fat from the almond butter. I slept amazing that night when I had those.
Well, sometimes a little bit of carbs and a little bit of good fat before bed can be really good fuel on the fire.
Well, and I had the cinnamon too, so I didn't even think about the blood sugar stabilization there.
Yeah, and may have been enough. You probably had a good dinner as well, right? So you probably had some good protein and fat at dinner. So you threw maybe a little bit of extra carbs than when you normally would. You had some cinnamon, some fat too. So that probably helped. Again, to convert your melatonin, right? That all comes from serotonin. And then serotonin comes from 5-HTP, and that comes from L-tryptophan, which is an amino acid, right? Amino acids are nothing more than pearls on the pearl necklace, right? The necklace is the protein, the pearls are the amino acids. So imagine breaking that necklace up and all those pearls, those are the amino acids. Well, 5-HTP is a protein, right? Essentially a protein. And we need insulin to help that amino acid cross that blood-brain barrier. So sometimes a little bit of carbs, some safer carbs, I'm not talking inflammatory carbs, can really help those aminos cross that blood-brain barrier and start converting into some of these sleep hormones.
Another thing that we should talk about, since we're on the subject of the conversion process to sleep hormones, is a lot of people that are dealing with adrenal issues or just a lot of stress in general, they're going to be burning through their B vitamins. So if they're deficient in, say, B6, that's necessary for that conversion from the 5-HTP over to serotonin, melatonin, that whole little cascade.
Yeah.
If they don't have that B6, they're not going to be able to do it. So in terms of having a big list of B6 foods in front of me, I don't have that, but I know just adding in a little bit of supplementary B6 could be helpful. Do you recommend a certain handful of nuts or something like that in terms of B6 or?
Yeah, typically you're going to get your best bang for your buck with B vitamins with good, clean meats, right? Meats are going to be loaded, especially grass-fed red meats. Those are going to have some good B vitamins, glandular, some nuts as well. So, I typically do a little bit of almond butter before bed with a Granny Smith apple and some cinnamon on top of it. That's really good.
Yummy.
Again, that'll be an hour after dinner. So I'm already having good grass-fed meat, kind of non-starchy vegetable, good fats kind of thing. If I do CrossFit that night, I'll maybe have a sweet potato in there or something. So it really depends on my activity level, how I dose my carbs. But something like that before bed can be super helpful. And you can even try, if you have a good meal, maybe even just a little bit of honey, maybe a teaspoon of honey can be helpful just to get that insulin up to help some of those aminos cross the blood-brain barrier. A little bit of a protein shake, maybe some beef protein or good clean whey protein and some collagen can be helpful too. Get those extra aminos going.
You mentioned exercise.
Yeah.
Can we transition into the sleep exercise picture? Because just I've definitely felt this working behind the microphone and the computer. If my brain's exhausted but my body has not been active or used enough, I'm going to sleep like crap. Vice versa, if I've just been physical all day and I haven't used my brain juice, I'm going to have a lot of brains left at night to think and not be able to sleep. So it's a balance of having the perfect amount of fitness and movement and activity and the perfect balance of using your brain. So you mentioned CrossFit, and I forgot to ask you, you always keep some pretty good muscle. And I've never actually talked with you about what you do at home. Do you go to the gym? What are you doing?
Yeah, just functional movements. I mean, I lift weights typically 2 to 3 times a week, and I try to do some burst stuff. So like after our interview here, I'll probably go to the gym, do a CrossFit class, or I'll just do some functional movements, whether it's squatting, lunging, bending, pushing, pulling kind of gig. And yeah, it's really important a couple times a week, but really keeping the diet in check is really going to be what's good. So keeping the insulin levels down, at least when you're, not working out as much, that's going to be important. So you're more of a fat burner versus a sugar burner. But when we tie in the exercise to sleep, exercise is a sympathetic nervous system stimulator, right? That's kind of cortisol, sympathetic nervous system, adrenaline. That's going to be pushing that part of the nervous system. Not a bad thing because, right, parasympathetics predominate while you sleep and you're eating, and then the sympathetics predominate while you're working and you're stressed and you're focused and you're moving. So the more we trigger those sympathetics, right, the more we're utilizing the adrenals. So we got to be careful if we are stressed and our adrenals are a little bit beaten down because our rhythm's off. We got to be careful of how much exercise we do, how intense it is, and also when. We don't want to be firing up the sympathetic nervous system if we're transitioning into a parasympathetic sleep time, right? If it's 8, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, we want to be in bed and winding down asleep by 10:30, 11. Well, coming back from the gym around 8 or 9, maybe a little too much stimulation, not give you enough time to turn off the switch and kind of down-regulate into that parasympathetic mode.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the artificial light, too, that's the whole other piece of the equation in terms of the gym. I mean, typically those places have tons of bright fluorescent lights that contain a lot of blue light. So any melatonin that would naturally be getting produced around sunset time, that's not going to happen for, it's about 45 minutes, what I found. I haven't found an exact number. I guess it depends on the person, but it seems like about 45 minutes after that bright light exposure, melatonin will try again to start secreting some more. So if you're flipping on your Netflix or you're checking your email or your Instagram one last time just to see what you missed out on, the fear of missing out, see what you missed out on right before you go to sleep, maybe don't do that and see if your sleep improves.
Yeah, one thing I've kind of created here, kind of made a deal with my wife, is that once 8 o'clock hits, we plug in our phones upstairs, we put them in airplane mode, we set the alarms, we put our, white noise kind of thing already on low. So then when we come upstairs, lights are already off, curtains are closed, lights are super, super dim just so we can see where the heck we're going, right? So not tripping over stuff. We just turn up the white noise, don't have to touch the phones at all. They're all ready to go. I don't have to wait and see this next text and get my little dopamine from the little text thing coming up or my little Facebook thing. I could just be like, all right, going right to sleep. I don't got to deal with any technology. That's a game changer right there. Have your phone in airplane mode ready to go. I use white noise because I don't want anything to wake me up. My cats jump in and out of my bed and stuff. I don't want to be able to hear them and know what they're doing. So the white noise significantly helps anything, waking me up. And then having everything dialed in, ready to go in airplane mode prevents me from wanting to check that last text.
What's your white noise? I use a HEPA filter myself.
Oh, white noise. Well, yeah, if you're using like a fan or if you're using a HEPA filter, that totally works too.
Are you using digital sound?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the app. It's called White Noise. And it's just the white noise. It's a little purpley pink one with little bars. It's the most popular one in the iStore. So that's the one I've used. I've used it for about 3 to 4 years.
Okay. There's another one called Relax Melodies. And
I
it's
used
kind
to
of
use
fun.
that one.
Where you add in a little, yeah.
I used to use that. It's just a little too complicated because
it is.
I just like this because it's just boom, and it worked great. But my wife and I have the same one on both of our phones, so we have them kind of in sync, and we do that. So in case she gets up early, she can like get on her phone and start doing whatever she's got to do, and it doesn't just kill the the volume in the room. So we have a little stereo effect going. That works.
That's cool. Yeah, I've just used a HEPA filter. I don't know why we got in the habit of it. I think because
that works good.
Maybe we just moved in somewhere. We wanted to clean the air, and it just happened to be the perfect amount when we had the HEPA air on medium. It was the perfect amount. Not too loud where you wake up with exhausted eardrums, but enough to keep you asleep.
When we have guests stay at our house, people freak out. They're like, what the hell is that? It's like the Martians landing or something. What the heck is that? Because it just sounds kind of weird, right? But yeah, just some white noise. But I find a lot of my patients, for instance, they don't sleep with white noise or something like that, and they get woken up really easy.
Yeah,
by especially or by something, who knows?
Or a train or traffic if they live in a super urban area. You got to block that stuff out. You have to have it cool, dark, quiet, blood sugar stable, a little bit of exercise earlier in the day, a little bit of brain usage, reading, writing, researching, talking. What else? There's some other pieces we can add into this thing.
Yeah, so I really try to give myself 2 hours. So like wind down time happens 2 hours. If I want to be asleep at 10:30, I need to be winding down like on the couch, just chillaxing at 8:30. And that could be like me just all showered, ready to go, maybe take a little bit of lavender oil, put it behind my ears, behind my elbow creases or kneecaps. It could be putting on my blue blocking sunglasses. I like a little Netflix before bed. I mean, I got a couple shows right now. I'm looking forward to The Walking Dead coming back on. So I got to give myself an extra half hour to 45 minutes before bed to stop that show so the adrenaline kind of winds down. But I like turning my brain. I think that's really important. It's kind of, if you're dealing with stuff all day, like I start at, 7:30 with patient stuff and videos and our podcasting and all kinds of stuff. And I don't stop till 7:30, 8 o'clock, 12 hours. So I need to really add that relaxation, just mind-numbing stuff to kind of chill out.
Yeah, and I found myself, even after that, doing 12 or 14 hours, which I know is too much sometimes for both of us. We just rely on our handy adaptogens to make that sustainable.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to just read something that's not geeky. Like I literally maybe only have like one fiction book on my bookshelf, and it's just straight nonfiction, nutrition stuff, brain stuff, neurotransmitter stuff. And so I'm taking recommendations for good fiction out there. I just can't get into fiction. I feel like there's so much nonfiction stuff, so many great things in the world that I want to learn about, that why should I delve into the world of things that are not real? But
yeah, well, it's like the old expression, right? Truth is stranger than fiction. So that kind of sums it all right there. But I agree, like something at nighttime can be really good that's spiritual. A lot of times I'll just get on my Audible and I'll just have something going that's pretty chill. And I just keep my eyes closed and I just sit in the corner and just listen to it while I'm maybe 10 minutes before bed. And then I use
a good idea.
My Zen frames before bed. Those are phenomenal.
What is that?
Zen frames. It's called MindFit technology, and it's got specific wavelengths for the light. So you wear these glasses and it has specific wavelengths that sync up on the light side to the sound side. And it's got almost like a meditative type of hypnosis program. And I use various programs for recovery or mindset and goals and, gratitude, just lots of different programs for performance, everything, any kind of thing you'd want. I mean, they have like for natural birthing to stress to performance for athletes. So I used a lot of these different programs, obviously not the birthing one because that would make too much sense, but use them all and they're phenomenal.
I had something like that. I had a eye device where it kind of does flashes to your closed eyes. I don't think it was binaural beats, but some type of sound thing. And I felt so crazy when I got off of it that I returned it. I was like, whoa, I can't do this. It freaked me out. Yeah,
I love the one I have. I use the one MindFit Technology Zen Frames by Portavision. We can put a link in it for Portavision on the podcast. And if people want some more info, they can reach out below the podcast or YouTube video. But I like that. I use it every night before bed. I've been using it for years. When I'm physically seeing patients, that's a great way. We have it in the office hooked up to pull them out of the sympathetics and really kind of activate the parasympathetic more frequently.
Yeah, so kind of like brain training, a little bit like neurofeedback in a way.
Yeah, very much. I mean, you don't have the actual feedback part of it, whether it's however they're doing it, but it's profound. And I think visualization is super important because too many people are just sitting there visualizing negative things all day, and you got to actually go in there and put the positive stuff because, just like negativity, weeds grow automatically. So you got to actually go in there and put those positive plants, if you will.
Yep. That's great. Should we talk about some remedies? Some consumables?
Yeah, I like that. So off the bat, blood sugar and diet tend to be number one, right? So that 4 to 5 hour gig with blood sugar and not skipping breakfast and obviously avoiding the alcohol before bed, that can be devastating because alcohol shuts down the liver because the liver's got to just focus on detoxifying and not stabilizing blood sugar and not doing all the other things it's got to do. So that can be a big one. Alcohol can easily cause low blood sugar at night because of the reactive hypoglycemic spike. So the blood sugar gig is going to be important. Timing of exercise, right? Not too late. especially if you're adrenally stressed. You won't be able to flip the switch between the sympathetics and the parasympathetics. So getting the exercise a little bit earlier, I'd say be finished before 8 o'clock at the latest, maybe even sooner, or switch to morning or afternoon if possible. And then I would say really have maybe a little bit of carbs and protein and fat right before bed, an hour or two. If your meal's 5 hours, let's say dinner's at 6, you're going to bed at 11, that's 5 hours, maybe another little small mini meal an hour or two before.
And watch out for caffeine too, because sometimes people metabolize caffeine slowly. I just got my genetic data back and it finally confirmed what I had already figured out, that I'm a slow metabolizer of caffeine. So that could be an issue too. People think that morning or midday coffee doesn't affect you. It could.
Yeah, absolutely. Now on the supplement side, we can use adaptogen. So when we see things like the excessive cortisol at night and sleeping, well, the first thing I go to is ashwagandha. And you got to be careful. Ashwagandha, if it's not from organic sources, can be loaded with lead and other crappy stuff. So you want to make sure you're buying organic, independently tested or ashwagandha. That's important. But that's a really good herb. I like holy basil before bed. I use it a lot in Tulsi tea by Organic India. They're great. Little holy basil before bed. Some soluble, water-soluble magnesium, either magnesium citrate or a natural calm or magnesium malate. We have some on the site we like. And that works phenomenal to kind of get the parasympathetics going. And magnesium's really just very relaxing, very sedating.
It's amazing. You wouldn't think magnesium could be so profound, but like you've told me a few times, you just take a gram or so and you feel incredible. I mean, it's mildly sedating.
Yeah.
Almost. Not incapacitating, but it feels great.
Yeah. Some lavender, behind the ears or in the elbow creases, etc. That can be phenomenal. Phosphorylated serine can be great if we have elevated levels of cortisol at night. That can be awesome. Again, some of these remedies would be based off of lab tests too. So I'm giving generalities, but again, we specifically recommend things a lot of times based on clinical presentation, but also labs too. So just throwing out some ones for the average person to check out. Also, 5-HTP can be phenomenal, and we always combine it long-term with L-tyrosine. So you want to combine them together. But again, at night, we typically favor the 5-HTP. Tends to be less stimulating and more sedating. Although 15% of the population have a paradoxical response and actually feel more relaxed with L-tyrosine before bed. So you kind of have to fret that one out. That could be throw you for a loop. But 5-HTP, a couple 100 milligrams before bed, especially with B6, can be awesome. Just make sure you combine the L-tyrosine in the first half of the day so you balance it out and you don't create neurotransmitter deficiencies. That's a big one.
Yeah, I like passion flower.
Yeah.
I like matcha tea. Now, passion flower, it's a GABA antagonist. So passion flower over a long period of time and a higher dosage could downregulate GABA production. So kind of like steroids, you don't want to depend on them and tell your body to stop making GABA because you can make your problem worse. But I really like passion flower. I like matcha. It does have caffeine. It does have possibly, depending on the purity and the strength, maybe 40 to 80 milligrams of caffeine per cup. So that's kind of a lot for evening time. But if you're doing matcha as opposed to just regular green tea, you could have up to 40 milligrams of L-theanine, which still is kind of below the therapeutic threshold. You would probably say so too. Like I like 100 milligrams of L-theanine, but still I really like the calming yet mildly energizing effect of matcha, and I can sleep perfectly fine on it. And I'll throw a little bit of raw honey in that, like a half teaspoon of raw honey, and it's just a great way to soothe myself to sleep. I'll also use a tea. I'm trying to think of who it is. It might be the Yogi brand, if that's even a brand. I'm picturing a yellow box. Oh, is it Yogi?
That's
okay.
Yogi.
And it's the honey lavender, and it's all organic, but or maybe is it honey lavender? And I think that one may even have some chamomile in it too, which also helps GABA.
Yep.
And chamomile, if you just take straight chamomile tea, that will knock you out cold. So I do use that for severe sleep issues. If I'm just like super excited, somebody's coming into town or a conference is the next day or something like that, chamomile tea is kind of the go-to one, but I don't use that every night.
Yeah, I'll use a lavender or a sleepy tea with some tulsi in there. That's phenomenal. That's the holy basil. I mean, those are some all really good things. With some people, if we get testing back that they're low in melatonin, I mean, we'll obviously work on the underlying issues, right? Why is the melatonin low? But in the meantime, while we're working on getting to the root, some sublingual melatonin can be excellent. For some people that are waking up midnight, they may even benefit from some time release melatonin. And I try to start with a very small dose, probably 500 micrograms or zero point 0.5 of a milligram, 0.5 milligrams. I think a lot of people OD on the melatonin, just too much.
Oh, totally. Yeah. 3, 5, 10 milligrams sometimes. That's crazy. No wonder you feel hungover the next day after taking that.
Yeah. So I really try to work on the amino acid stuff more for a long-term approach.
Yeah.
And then you got to figure out, why are the amino acids burnt out? Is there a malabsorption stuff, some gut stuff, some stress stuff that's causing it? So you always want to get to the root issue, and we aren't going to go into that per se, but just don't forget that. That's always in the background and always a given, so to speak. But the amino acids and melatonin can be very powerful if used together with a comprehensive program.
Definitely. Yeah. Melatonin is more crisis management, not something that you just heard and now you're going to go do it, because you can throw yourself off and feel like crap if you depend on melatonin and get stuck on that. It's not fun to wean yourself off of melatonin, if that's the best term I can come up with right now.
Absolutely. And also gut infections. I see a lot of patients that are waking up middle of the night, and gut infections are really behind the root of the issue because infections have opposite sleep and wake cycles than we have. So the infections are really active up middle of the night. They're hanging out. They're doing their thing, and they're creating inflammation. And that inflammation creates a corresponding rise in cortisol, and that cortisol affects your blood sugar and your alertness, and you start waking up. And we see that a lot.
So that would be the time to run the stool test then. If you're trying some of these things or you've contacted us and you have a program going, you're still not getting the results, that may be the next underlying root cause is some gut bugs.
Yeah, running a comprehensive stool test can make a huge difference. We'll see it on the stool. We'll even see like mildly elevated eosinophils on your blood test. Right? Eosinophils are a white blood cell that can go up with severe anaphylactic allergies, but can also go up with parasites too. And we'll see, for instance, on an adrenal cortisol rhythm, we'll see people's cortisol really high in the morning, like, either very, very high in the range or even above the range, high, and then we'll see them bottom out throughout the day. And a lot of times that's a parasite pattern because the cortisol has been jacked up throughout the night, and then it spills into the morning. And now that these guys are kind of, in their chillaxing mode, if you will, hibernation, then the cortisol would drop then later in the day.
We're going to have to do a whole podcast on that because that is so fascinating.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? But I've seen a lot of people, their sleep get better once we start treating for bugs.
Yep. That's amazing. And just because you live in the United States doesn't mean you're free. I mean, that's more common than you think. You don't have to go to a tropical place to get something like that.
Yeah, I think the biggest separator between most functional medicine docs is a lot of functional medicine docs have a really good approach where they're addressing diet and lifestyle and hormones and everything, but they're missing the gut connection. And it's so easy because so many of the symptoms are extraintestinal, which means outside of your typical bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation, etc. They're things you would never, ever connect to with a gut issue or gut infection.
Yep. And that's coming up real soon. That podcast, we have to do that. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, we'll do some research on that one. But just, think about it, right? These gut infections, they affect nutrient levels because they're eating up and they're stealing your nutrients. They're creating malabsorption issues. They're putting stress on your liver, and they're creating stress on your hormones, causing hormones to go out of their natural rhythm.
Yep.
Makes sense, though.
It does.
So do you want to kind of recap everything for the listeners? I mean, I said it. I think if they hear it again, it'll sink even deeper.
Yeah, we've definitely jumped a lot of different places today, but it was awesome and worthy. Number one, get the blood sugar picture going. You got to have the diet picture first. You can't just jump straight to 5-HTP supplements and think everything's going to work, especially if you're intermittent fasting and you're doing CrossFit at 8 p.m. and trying to go to bed at 9 p.m. while you're scrolling on your phone. It's not going to work. So getting the diet picture, getting the blood sugar picture, getting a good dose of exercise. Let's say don't exercise at all. Walking is a great way to get exercise in. You don't have to do high-intensity stuff. Next, I would say, is the stress picture. Get your stress under control. Get your emotional stress figured out. Whether you have a conflict going on with somebody, try to work on that. If you need to go out in nature for a walk with somebody and try to hash out something, that's a good idea. Reducing your negative inputs. If you're taking the fast lane to work and you're doing 30 miles an hour over the speed limit, reducing that stress is going to be helpful. Next, dig a little bit deeper. Contact us, get some testing run. Get some gut testing run. See if your energy is getting sapped and your sleep is getting disrupted because of some underlying gut bugs and infections. See how your neurotransmitters are. See if they're balanced. See if they're imbalanced. See which ones need help before you start tweaking all of the amino acid picture, because you can definitely, it's not going to destroy you or anything. It's not damaging necessarily to your health, but it's just going to delay your results if you start throwing things into the fire without actually identifying what's going on first. Lastly, just take a baby step. Take one thing. Take an Epsom salt bath tonight. Maybe that's your one thing that you apply, and then you work on the other stuff tomorrow. But do something tonight that's going to give you that deeper quality sleep so that you can perform better and be a better person in your waking life during the daylight hours.
Absolutely. And I would just say, make a deal with your spouse or partner or even just yourself. Put your phone on airplane mode at 9 p.m. Put it on, get the airplane mode going, have your alarm already set, have it already plugged in and ready to go so you're no longer getting that stimulation. Get the light turned down low if you're going to be watching a little Walking Dead or some Netflix like I do. Maybe get some blue blocking sunglasses and you can sing that Corey Hart song from the 80s, Sunglasses at Night. You guys know what I'm talking about. But that's some great strategies right there off the bat. Evan, anything else you want to add in there?
I think that's it, man. I think that was an earful for everybody today.
That's it. Well, I'm going to go put my sunglasses on a little bit early. I'm inspired.
Sounds good.
Evan, have a good one.
You too, man. Bye.
Bye.
Got a question for Dr. J? Go to beyondwellnessradio.com and click the questions button. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, click below to review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.